The medical alert went off at 3 in the morning, and Ambassador Liraen of the Solyni Concord hit the human's door at a dead sprint. According to the station's monitors, Lieutenant Ryan Holt had been dying for 6 hours. Heart rate collapsed, breathing slow and shallow, brain activity dissolved into rolling waves of chaos. And most horrifying of all, it was the 4th night in a row. She override-coded his lock. Diplomatic emergency, possibly a funeral. The human was sprawled across his bunk in the dark, tangled in a blanket, one arm hanging off the edge like a casualty. Liraen seized his shoulders and shook him with the strength of a species that had once towed moons into tidier orbits. "Lieutenant, stay with me. Help is coming."
Ryan Holt woke up the way humans apparently do, badly. He flailed, said a word the translator refused to process on ethical grounds, and squinted at her with one eye still glued shut. "Ambassador, it's 3 in the morning. Your heart rate is 46. She projected his medical readout from her wrist, glowing between them like evidence at a trial. "Your brain is producing delta chaos. You have been non-responsive for 6 hours. "Yeah, it's called sleep." "It's called what?" What followed became known in the official records of Meridian Accord Station simply as the incident.
The Solyni do not sleep. They microtrance, 90 seconds of stillness every few hours, eyes open, spine straight, fully presentable. The notion that humans voluntarily shut down, went limp, blind, defenseless, unconscious for a third of every single day, landed on Liraen somewhere between scandal and horror. "You do that every night?" She paced his quarters, gesturing at the rumpled bunk as if it were a crime scene. "Every night, with the door locked." The door being locked was kind of the point. "You were dying." "I was Tuesday." He pulled on a shirt. She noted this, then noted that she had noted it, and turned away with tremendous ambassadorial dignity. "Humans sleep, Ambassador. 8 hours. It's normal. Honestly, it's the best part of my day." "The best," she spun back around. "You are unconscious for it."
That's what makes it good. By 0900, she had filed a formal complaint, Form 77C. Under Nature of the Fence, she had written in beautiful diplomatic calligraphy, "Indecent unconsciousness." The station's medical intelligence was summoned to arbitrate, reviewed the human baseline files, and ruled that Lieutenant Holt was not only healthy, but, quote, "an unusually enthusiastic sleeper." Then it added, because machines have no mercy, "During the REM phase, the human brain also generates complete sensory hallucinations. This is normal." Liraen's cup stopped halfway to her lips. "It generates what?" "Dreams," Ryan said. "We see things. Whole worlds, sometimes. While unconscious, defenseless. You hallucinate? Recreationally?" "Last night, I was a lighthouse keeper," he offered. "The ocean was made of wheat. There was a dog. It was fantastic." She stared at him for a long moment, and something flickered behind those enormous sapphire eyes, something that was not scandal at all, though she buried it fast. She declared the matter under continued diplomatic review, confiscated his coffee for reasons she declined to state, and left with perfect posture. By lunch, the story had escaped. Stations are small towns with better plumbing, and by the time the mess hall opened, everyone from the dock crews to the delegations knew that the human liaison spent a third of his existence deliberately unconscious. The Ruvian attaché sent flowers addressed to the bereaved. The methane delegation filed a preemptive complaint about being represented near anything that, quote, "practices death recreationally." Someone started a betting pool on whether the human would survive the week. Ryan, informed of the odds, put 20 credits on himself and went back to his paperwork. Liraen spent the afternoon in the archives, requisitioning the human cultural database with the grim focus of a war historian. It did not help. Every file was worse than the last. Humans manufactured soft bags to place under their heads so that the unconscious would at least be comfortable. They built small machines whose only purpose was to scream at them until they returned to life, and then, she read twice, they struck the machine to silence it and return to the dying. They drank a bitter black potion each dawn, specifically to fight their own biology, and they had built an entire economy around it. And they sang to their children. That was the file that undid her. Human parents sang their young into unconsciousness, soft, repeating songs older than some starfaring species. And the children asked for it, begged for it even. Every human culture in the archive, every single one, shared a custom her translator rendered the same way. They said, "Good night," as if the dark were a road, and you could wish someone safely down it.
At 2100, in the privacy of her quarters, the ambassador of the Solyni Concord attempted the procedure herself. She dimmed the lights. She reclined on the ceremonial bed that had come with the suite and had never once been used. She folded her hands, closed her eyes, and lay in perfect diplomatic stillness for 90 seconds, which was as long as any Solyni had rested in 3 centuries. Then her eyes opened, entirely against orders. The ceiling continued being a ceiling. Her mind continued being a government office at peak hours. After 11 more attempts, she sat up, smoothed her hair, and formally declared the experiment a failure. There was, she reasoned, a component missing. Equipment, perhaps, or expertise, or, though she was not yet prepared to file this finding, a voice.
She came back at 2200, off the record, out of uniform, and something soft and silver, standing in his doorway like a question she hadn't figured out how to file. "Show me," she said, "the procedure. I wish to observe, chaperoned, fully clothed, for science." He made her tea instead of coffee, and they sat by the viewport while the station dimmed to night cycle. And that was when she finally said the true thing, quietly, to the starfield rather than to him. "We used to sleep, my people. 300 years ago, during the Long War, the Concorde optimized it away, engineered out the whole apparatus, 8 extra hours in every day. We won the war with those hours." Her thumb moved across her wrist, where an old-fashioned paper journal was scanned and stored, page by page. "My grandmother's grandmother kept a diary from before. There is an entry I have read perhaps 1,000 times. It says, 'Tonight I flew again. No ship, just me and the wind and my mother's voice. And my mother has been gone 9 years, but in dreams, no one is ever gone.' There were other entries. She had read them all so many times she could recite them into the dark. 'Tonight I argued with a fish and lost, and woke up laughing. Tonight I found a door in the orchard that opened onto my mother's kitchen, and the bread was still warm. Tonight I was small again in tall grass, and nobody needed anything from me until morning.' 300 years of her family's diaries thinned and faded and ended the same way, entry after entry. I dreamed. Her people had kept writing the word long after they forgot what it meant, the way you keep a key when the house is gone. She looked at him then, and the ambassador was gone, and what sat by his viewport was just a woman made of 3 centuries of efficiency, asking about the one thing her people had traded away without understanding the price. 'We got 8 extra hours of every day,' she said, 'and we spent all of them working. You kept your nights. Your species never optimized away the dark, and it turns out that's where you keep your stars. Hey,' Ryan's voice was gentle. 'Come here. I can't give you a dream, but I can lend you one.
So she curled into the corner of his couch, spine straight at first, then less straight, and he told her his dreams, the way humans have always told stories in the dark. The lighthouse and the wheat-colored sea, the dog whose name he never learned, the door in an orchard that opened onto his childhood kitchen. His voice went low and warm and unhurried, and 90 seconds of Solyni's stillness stretched into 10 minutes, then 20, and her eyes, for the first time in 300 years of her bloodline, drifted closed and stayed there.
The medical alert went off at 3 in the morning. An unknown Solyni life sign in Delta rhythm. Heart slow, breath deep, defenseless and utterly unafraid. Ryan silenced the alarm and put his jacket over her shoulders. On the monitor, 2 readouts glowed side by side in the dark. She was smiling. Somewhere behind those closed eyes, an ambassador was flying. No ship, just her and the wind, and a voice that was not gone. It was the 4th hour of the night, and, most wonderful of all, it was the first one in 300 years. She woke at 600 hours, mortified, magnificent, and more rested than any Solyni in living history. Ryan was at the viewport with his coffee, heroically pretending to read fleet reports. By 8, a new document had arrived at his terminal. Form 78A, a formal request for recurring joint observation of human rest procedures. Frequency, nightly. Duration, indefinite. Under justification for diplomatic resources, in beautiful calligraphy, she had written a single line. Some things cannot be learned from archives. He signed it before his coffee cooled.
And that evening, when the station dimmed a night cycle, the ambassador of the Solon Concord stood at his door with a pillow under one arm and all the dignity of her office in her spine. "Teach me," she said, "to say goodnight properly." He did. It took years. Neither of them ever filed a complaint. Oh, and if you're wondering, Form 77C is still on file. Liraen refuses to withdraw it. She says it's the only complaint in the galaxy that ends in a lullaby. If this story made you smile, a like and a subscribe genuinely keep these stories coming. It means the galaxy to this little community. New story tomorrow. Tony.